Good morning. Kind of the goal of today's stream. I don't plan on flying, but we'll see what the stream brings. Um, my goal today is kind of to show how I fly in VR and X-Plane, and how I try to fly in VR and Microsoft Flight Simulator. The experience in X-Plane, the way that I like to fly in VR, the experience is a bit different in X-Plane than Microsoft Flight Simulator. Um, and it's all because of VR controllers. So I started flying in VR and X-Plane basically soon after it become they gave VR native support. So they happened to do that on Christmas Day. I think it was almost 5 years ago now. I may be off by a year. Uh, but I kind of like looked at it. I watched people that had VR equipment, which I did not. And I watched and I listened to forum posts, and nobody was streaming at that point in time. Not streaming VR. That no way. Uh, just that was a little too much in its infancy. So I kind of was reading the forums and stuff, and I think there was some videos, and I kind of watched that and went, that looks really interesting. So, so probably a day or two after Christmas, I decided, did a bit of research, because at the time I was using Linux. It was important for me to find a VR headset that was supported by Linux. So I bought a Vive, and because it was a native Steam VR headset, and it supported Linux. Um, so I bought the Vive, and and in those early days, the developers at X-Plane kind of wanted you to not use the VR controllers, and so I had Vive controllers. They were a bit of a challenge, but that's what I started on, because they wanted you to basically fly the whole airplane only using VR controllers. So I did that, and found, because I had rudder pedals, I had a yoke. Uh, I found that didn't suit me. So I decided, let me integrate the my rudder pedals and my yoke, and then use the VR controllers to interact with the virtual cockpit. Um, that worked okay, but you always had the problem, because the Vive controllers, they weren't like the index controllers. The index controllers are on my hands at all time. Uh, so so I did that for a little bit, until I heard about the Valve index controllers, and went, those look like those suit my purpose. So as soon as I could pre-order it, I pre-ordered uh, the Valve Index controllers. Actually, before I even bought a Valve Index kit. So before I even had a Valve Index headset, I had Valve Index controllers. And as soon as I put those on, I went, this is the way I want to enjoy VR. A physical yoke, physical rudder pedals, and that's how I want to enjoy VR. Uh, so so that's so ever since I've had my Valve Index controllers, this is what I use. I did have an HP Reverb for a short period of time. I didn't like their controllers. I tried very hard, because I like the visuals in it, but I tried very hard to get the Valve Index controller to play nice with it, but I never succeeded. It was always, uh, when I go to stream, I don't want to have to worry about, well, did the headset find the controllers this time? I don't want to have to worry about that. That was just an annoying thing that I finally just says, nope, I'm done with this. And so so at about that time, then I bought a Vive Pro 2, and I have had many headsets in between. Um, and uh, and the advantage of that was its native Steam, not completely native Steam VR, but at least the controllers, they're native to it. You know, I still have to run a console program, which I don't like. Uh, and I would really, what I'm really looking for is just a straight Steam VR headset with nothing else in between. So in other words, I could run Linux or I can run Windows. The headset, I want it to talk to Steam VR natively. And I have found a big screen beyond that absolutely does that, and that will be my next headset. Uh, so to the point of this, I wanted to kind of show how in X-Plane you can turn on the VR mouse, and let me jump over there. So if I click on this right here and go to VR hardware, so here you can enable the VR mouse. It's a bit evasive. I haven't tried it in a little bit, but basically it allows you to kind of use your mouse just like a similar to a VR controller, but not the same. There's unique peculiarities about it, you know. But I choose to just run physical yoke, physical pedals, Steam VR controllers for all on our interactions. So uh, there is always some issues with new people coming to VR that have a hard time getting their controllers to work. So I kind of wanted to go over what's important. And if you don't have this enabled, your controllers are not going to work. So if I go over here, and so when I click on joystick, we'll get over here. So when you connect a new VR headset with controllers up to X-Plane and you start it for the very first time, it goes through. If you look on in the folder, there's a folder called joystick config. So it's a whole bunch of configurations for all kinds of joysticks and VR controllers. When X-Plane first starts, it goes through and it reads that config file for whatever. So whether it's your joystick, your VR controllers, whatever, it reads that. And what it does is it populates. So if we look here, I'm on my Fulcrum 1 yoke. So uh so if it found the configuration and everything is set up correctly, then it should fill in all this stuff. And but if it doesn't find it or there's some kind of problem, then it won't. So I'm going to go to Valve Index controllers. There's no image available. So when it went through, it found from the Valve Index config file, it found axis 0 should be X, axis 1 should be Y, axis 2 should be VR trigger. For the menu system in VR to work, all three of these have to be like this on at least one of your controllers. And if it's not, then when you get in the cockpit and you do the flower menu, when you try to go down through the menu, it won't work. You won't be able to go down through the menu. So these have to be this way. And then the same way, and these are actually, when you look at the axis, these are called reserve. Just like over here on the buttons. So the buttons you have reserve VR menu button, reserved VR select trigger. So the trigger, so when I pull the trigger, I'm on the wrong controller. When I pull in on the trigger, if I go in so far, that's going to highlight. Right there, it highlighted. So it's about 3/4, whatever, of the of it. It highlights. So then on so I'm gonna on the X button here, I'm gonna push that down. But the funny part is that the upper one is getting pushed down. So that basically says do nothing. Okay, um so the button closest to my thumb, even though it's represented away from it, the button closest to my thumb is basically this here. So this is a spare button that I can use to map for anything I want. So, and then the VR menu button, let me squeeze. Yeah. So if I squeeze, this menu button gets highlighted. If I push on the button furthest away from my thumb, it does exactly the same thing. So I have thumbstick touchpad. Is that working? Yeah, that works. Okay. So uh I have in Steam VR actually reverse these two buttons. So the button that's closest to my thumb uh in the default Steam VR configurations would have been reversed of that. So I basically went into Steam VR, reversed them, so it's much more convenient. The button furthest away from my thumb is the same as the grip button. So I generally don't even use that button whatsoever in X-Plane. So okay, and like I said, at least one of your controllers must have these. If it says reserved, at least one of your controllers has to have these, or X-Plane will not allow you to get into VR. It's real simple. Uh, so, um, what I'm not so sure about is if you have no controllers, how that works. I just know that if I don't have at least one of them set up, that it won't. The VR wasn't enabled for me. But I've been using controllers, so I haven't really tried it without controllers. One other thing, reset. Okay, this button down here, it says reset to default for Valve Index controller. When you click on that button, if everything is working correctly, if you click on this button here, it's basically going to be the same way as if you started up with X-Plane and you never had any VR controllers. It will basically take the configuration file and repopulate this. You know, I rarely use that. Okay, so yeah, I wanted to go over to the other controller. So the other controller I have, that should be this one. Yeah. So this is my right controller. And this button here, so button A, when this button is pressed, plane command will listen for your commands. I have plane command set up so that I don't want it to, as soon as it's hearing my voice, start listening. I don't want it that way. I want to be able to push a button and then it listens. The advantage of that is say you're doing a group play, you're in Discord, you're chatting with people. You don't want plane command to automatically do some command, um, because you happen to say that command while you're talking in a chat. So that's why I have it done the way I have it. One other thing, if I jump over here someplace, so on the Valve Index controllers, if you squeeze the grip, then basically it's like the menu command. So if I squeeze it, it's going to put me right in front of the of this easel. If I go over here, I have to work a little bit to get to the right button. If I hit the button furthest away from my thumb, it does exactly the same thing. And depending on where you're looking, so if I'm looking over here, it's going to put that right in front of my face. So if I'm looking basically straight ahead, it'll put it right in front of me. Um, okay. I think that's as much as I can actually show in X-Plane here. But I want to go to Steam. So on the Valve Index controllers, there's this little recess button that's hidden. It didn't used to be on the Vive controllers, and you could hit it by mistake. But it's a little recess button, so you have to kind of work at it to find where it is. So if I click on that, that basically takes me to this window here. So I'm going to go to controller binding. So I'm going into Steam VR, and so wants me to edit this one. This one is for X-Plane. So if I click on edit, alrighty. Yes. So this is what I wanted to also show off. So I'm editing shared bindings from Sparker in VR. That's me. And so I basically made some public bindings so that it makes it easier for people to replicate what uh, what I have done. So my chat window is not available, so I can't read chat right now. But but I am but I'm sure that I am streaming this information. So I'm gonna go hold on. So the trigger is the same. Trackpad. I gotta move it. So basically I have put the trackpad in the trash can. Uh I found it in X-Plane. I would inadvertently, when I was trying to use the thumbstick, I would touch the trackpad. And it would do, because the trackpad was basically a copy of the joystick, and so it would just get in the way. So so I basically just put it in the trash can, and so I don't use it. So what's up here? Trigger. Okay, trigger is normal. Joystick normal. B button. All right. So if we look at my controller, and so if I, and this won't show up. Yep. So basically, if you see here, it says right grip button is the B button. So you should be able to see the B and the A. So the B button is furthest away from my thumb. So I've made that the right grip button. So basically, the B button and the grip are the same. And and then on the other hand, I've made so the A button, the one closest to my thumb, that one is the right application menu button. So it's application menu button. So so that basically what that means in X-Plane is that that button is available for X-Plane. So right application. So so if we go down to grip, so the grip, which on the Valve Index controllers, the grip is gripping the body, the body of it. So when you squeeze on it, it basically will. It's the same as pushing a button, and basically they're the same over here, with the exception of this is left, this is right. So, I think that's what I wanted to explain over here. You know, it took me a little while when I first got the Index controller to kind of figure out how to do all of this, and it wasn't it was quite a bit of trial and error until I finally figured out how to actually make how to configure the controllers like I wanted. And then the more important part was to actually publish it so that it's available for other people to kind of come in and you can use my configuration, you know, if you find that's what you want. If you don't, that's fine. But it's what I found to be the most intuitive. So back. Oh. And, Turn the game. Where else do we want to go? We think. I'll jump back in the cockpit. So if I have everything all done here, then I just click on done, resume flight, and we're in the cockpit again. So, let me show. So if I squeeze on the grip of the valve index, that makes this blower menu show up. And the thumbstick allows me to pick things. Oops. So if I round it up, that's reset the cockpit position. Didn't quite pull that off. There we go. It's a little off. We're gonna try it one more time. Yeah, that's lined up. If you don't have your joystick X and Y set up, then you won't be able to do that. Or you won't be able to come down through. So if I'm over here, if I can use a joystick to go down through. Or if I went to the right and picked all the so there's a list of all the plugins. If your X and Y access for your controller is not configured, you can't do that. So you'll get over here. You may be able to get, I'm not sure if you'll get to this menu, but you certainly won't be able to go down through them, you know. So basically you go on down through them, and then when you're at the particular plugin you want, you basically pull in on the trigger, and that basically goes one menu down for the particular plugin. This happens to be Fly with Lewis, so if I wanted to reload all the scripts, basically highlighted, pull the trigger, it will do that. Same way as macros. You notice on the bottom here, I am GUI, sound settings, open, close. That is that macro. So. And if I go to the left, it just backs me up. So here, it's basically at the root menu system. So the only way I can get rid of this is basically squeeze the squeeze grip again, and then it will go away. So same way as so now we're on settings. So if I have that highlighted, so that takes me to settings. So back, and if we want to pause, yes, we are paused. Whoops, that's not where I wanted to be. Okay, so I just want to go over those pieces, you know, of how what can affect you not being able to basically use the menu system here. So basically we'll say not on an index controller, there should be a grip button on the controller, and the grip button should get you to this menu system, and then the joystick on that controller should be able to get you to this menu, and then the joystick also allows you to cycle down through. So if I go over to developer, you know, you can go down through these. Now, some of these aren't going to work in VR, like the toggle dev console. I don't think that works. I think that only works in 2D. So there's a few of them that doesn't work, but a lot of them do. So like the micro profiler, that absolutely works in VR. So you can kind of watch and see how it's really, when you first look at this, it's a bit of a nightmare. There's just a lot of information. And basically it's like every frame, so it's kind of crazy. And but once you kind of understand it, you can pause this. Pausing is a little bit more fun in VR than on a 2D screen, but you can, I can Yeah, it's not playing nice with me. That's okay. So we'll get back out of here. Hello. And so you got the texture browser, microprocessor, VR RAM profiler, show RAM inspector. Pretty much all of them will show in VR. So it did help me quite a bit to um kind of try to tune my system to better work with VR. And yeah. So another use of the joystick is to like teleport. And the same thing. I'm thinking most of the time this actually will work, even if the joystick isn't quite configured right. But so so if I'm like in the cockpit, notice that I can't get out. So the beam is jammed, is stuck right here. I can't get out. So what I have to do is kind of put my hand right through the window. Now I can go outside, and and this is all I'm doing is holding down on the joystick. You can see it. So I'm holding down on the joystick, and then I can rotate the joystick to where I want to point. So right now, I should end up looking to the east. Up, well, somewhat. We'll try that. That's better. That's to the east. But that's kind of what the red thing does. The red thing controls where your view's going to be when you end up. So I want to kind of be looking at the door. Should be there. Yep. Oh well. In the same way, when I'm out of the cockpit, this button here will take me. Oh, that's kind of interesting. In X-Plane 12, they changed the contrast of a lot of stuff. So it used to be if I was out here, I could clearly see it says get pilot get in pilot seat. But because the see if you can see it. Yeah, you can see it. Let me get back out of here. I want to kind of show this off. All right. So hopefully I don't touch anything. Notice that you can see right through that circle, and you can see the cloud behind it. Well, also the letters are the same way. So if I give it some contrast, ah, so so if I give it contrast, like up there, so it's looks like it's gray. So if I give it a white background, then you can see it. But but if the background, like here, the background was this gray. So our background was this gray, which is almost the same color as the letter. So so that makes it quite difficult to see. So this I'm on the gray concrete, gray. As soon as I come up, even over on the right hand side where basically it's kind of like a translucent part of the building, you can clearly see the letters. So it's something that got changed with 12, and I'm I like the advantage. This is important. The fact you can see through these is important in VR, so that basically most things don't block your view. So I have since I've been in VR, I've always any window I made, if it was possible for me to make, I would make the background of the window translucent, not necessarily transparent, because what I found is I can make it transparent, but you can't see anything because there's no contrast. And let me think. Yeah, in the cockpit. So a good example is here. This is my landing rate, and I basically modified this for VR. So if I tell it pause, hello. So I've made it. So I paused it. When I pause it, this will display this information here. Now that's quite readable. The reason it's readable is there's a background here, even though it's translucent, there is a background there to give contrast against the white letters. That actually works quite well. So, but not all windows are made that way. And kind of took me some time to figure that out. So, uh, that's what I found helps quite a bit. So, let me think. Yeah. Yeah, because this is kind of, I wanted to, and I'm probably jumping all over the place. That's fine. Just kind of the way I roll. Let me get that a pause. And so when it goes out of pause, then it just stays blank. So it won't display information again until I actually do a landing, or yeah, I do a landing, and then at that time, then it's going to show how good or bad my landings were. Um, One other thing I wanted to show off is made this thing here. This is called my VR pedal visualizer. Uh, so on the stream, you can uh, you can see my yoke. So you can see when I pull the yoke in and out, you can see that. But you can't see my rudder pedals because they're where my feet are, which is out of the view of the camera. So I wanted to try to find a method where I could visualize the how my pedals are. So right pedal all the way forward, left pedal all the way forward. So it allows me to visualize that, not be too evasive, where it doesn't bother me, when I'm landing, because that's kind of important when you're coming in for landing. What are you doing with your feet? And if you can't see it with a camera, how else can I show it? So it took me a little while to. This was I'm probably a third the sizes of it as it was, and I wanted to make it small enough. My goal was to get it about the same size as this, so that it was under the wet compass. That was kind of my goal, and looks like I've succeeded. So the two middle ones, those are my the brakes. So if I roll the brakes in, if I get in too far, it released the brake. It released my brakes. So I have to release it and then click on the parking brake, and it set it again. So that's the other thing, you wanted to try to convey while I'm in VR what the benefit of that. And this is just a play with fluid script, so it's basically taking the axis data refs for the pedals, and just displaying them in a vertical bar, and I'm quite happy with how it turned out. I'm using exactly the same color, so I can see the stairs right through it. So in the bottom of the light pole, I can see right through it. That's kind of my goal, is to be able to see through windows. So, and that has succeeded. So, what to check one couple of things. Okay. Alrighty, that all worked. What do you think? Oh, VR setup. So, yeah, I kind of wanted to go over this again. My, this yoke, this is a Fulcrum 1 yoke. I was at the last Flight Sim Expo that I attended. It was the first time that I had seen, where I could touch a honeycomb yoke. And I looked at it, and at the time I had a Staytech. I had a Staytech Cessna yoke, so I had the better one of the Staytech range. I had that. When I looked at the honeycomb, the one thing I played with it. It felt kind of okay, but one thing I looked at, there's two things I looked at. One was the cable that went from the main body to the yoke, and kind of like looked at it. Just seemed kind of odd the way it was done. The other thing that actually more caught my attention was the size of the shaft. My Staytech had about a 1-inch shaft. It's about what's in a real airplane. When I fly an airplane one-handed. If there is not enough, if the mechanism going from the shaft into the body of the yoke is not strong enough, when you side load it like that, it'll bind. And so I looked at that, and I knew how I flew with my Staytech yoke. And that seems to work okay, although I understand it was like all plastic and all that good stuff. But I think I did fail one of them. I think I ended up buying another one. I did fail one. And but I knew that feature was important to me. So I seen that at the FS Expo, and I got to use it. So I played around with it a little bit. I didn't use it a lot. I was just not comfortable trying to fly an airplane. Lots of people watching. I just wasn't up for it. So, but I did it enough that I kind of knew what it felt like. And so shortly thereafter, there was a sim conference in Cosford in England, and one of the YouTubers was, and I can't remember his name now, was basically going around the floor, kind of demoing things, and that's the first time I seen a Fulcrum 1. I went, "What the heck is this?" And it was pretty rough in its early stage, but one thing I started doing some research, and I found out that the developer was he wanted to make not a cheap yoke, but a high quality yoke, and what the cost would be is what the parts would cost, plus him making a little bit of money. And so I kind of like went, okay, that sounds like an interesting concept. So what intrigued me the most was, well, the one fact was it did have a 1-inch shaft, and it's got linear bearings in it, a pair of them on either side. And so it is good and strong. And but what really caught my attention was in a Cessna, if I grab onto this yoke and pull the yoke back all the way, that's 8 inches. There is not another yoke that I'm aware of. There may be, but I'm not aware of one that has that throw. None. A lot of them are 4. This is 8. So 8 back, 8 front. That's what a Cessna is. Advantage, you're coming in for landing. So you kind of pull back on the yoke a little bit and go, oops, too much. All you have to do is just release it just a little bit. That will change how that plane's going to land. You can just pull back and go, whoops, I pulled it too much. So in other words, you pitch your plane up too much. Just release it a little bit, just a very little bit. The plane's going to stop pitching up, going to level, and then you can just ride that until it finally runs out of airspeed. As long as you're not too far off the ground, you're going to come in, you're going to do a pretty nice landing. My landings after I got this Yoke and day and night. Unbelievable difference. So I can save, I can come in too fast, and as long as I don't try to shove it into the ground, just let it run out of airspeed. Yeah, well, I'll be, I would say almost, unless the weather is really bad, I'll be under 200 feet per minute every time I land this aircraft. And I never landed that good when I was flying it for real. so, so, uh, so, was it worth the investment? Absolutely. Was it cheap? No. So how much does it cost? So I think I paid around 450 or something, maybe a little less than that actually, because the price was quoted with VAT, and because I was in the States, I didn't have to pay it. So that basically lessened the price. And so once I got it, I was so happy. Had a little issues with the very first one I got, but I was probably one of the first, 10, 12, maybe 15 that actually got one. And so a little bit of manufacturing fun. But I contacted the developer, and it was like the one that I had that had a problem. He had another one coming. I mean, like it come. It. I mean, he didn't wait for me to send the other one back. No. He shipped me one, and I was impressed. And so I've been extremely happy. So, so something comparable is like a Yoko, but a Yoko is almost twice the money, and it's kind of and it isn't. It doesn't have the throw. Unless I'm the last time I checked, it didn't have this kind of throw. So, and I find it important. So, and but that's how I fly an airplane. I mean, I was taught that you have fingertips on the yoke, and you keep the plane in trim. If the plane's in trim, you should be able to do a descent to landing without applying any pressure whatsoever on the yoke. It just, you don't need to. And but if you don't, you then you're always applying. You always have a lot of pressure you have to apply to get it to like flare or any of that. It should be just a very, very, very little bit of pressure, just fingertip. And so when you kind of look, my fingertips are the only thing I have. There's no way I could actually do like a white knuckle death grip because I have controllers on my hands. So I couldn't do it anyhow, you know. So that's kind of Bill's mindset as to what makes sense for me, the hardware I have, and how I use it in VR. It's one of the other things I've heard is I want hand tracking, and I'm like, okay, well, how would that work? And if you have hand tracking, and somehow your hand can tell, if you have hand tracking and you have a physical cockpit, so could it tell when I was close to a switch? Could I feel it? I would feel the physical switch. But if you don't have a physical cockpit, what would the benefit be? Because with a VR controller, if I go over to this flap, as soon as I get close to it and it lights up green, my controller does like a little rattle. So it's basically like if I didn't even look at it, I could tell that I'm basically touching the flap lever. I can tell. I wasn't even looking at it, but I could tell. That's haptic feedback, and it's important. Second, both controllers need to be live at the same time. So when I'm going to start up, I got to get something out of the way. So when I'm going to start this airplane up, I'm going to basically be on the ignition switch, and on the mixture. So basically, I would have primed the engine, and I'm going to click it to start, and as soon as it starts, then the mixture is going to go from cutoff slowly, slowly into full red. Uh, and that's only because both of these, right, even right here. So both of these work at the same time. My, one of my issues with Microsoft Flight Simulator is only one of the VR controllers can be active at one time. You can flip them back and forth pretty quick, but I am at a loss as to why both of them can't be active at the same time. And yeah, it just kind of, it's a bit of a disappointment would be the right term. I know what I find makes the most sense for me in VR. Whether I am the only person in the world that feels this way, don't know. But I just know that this is what works for me, and I've been flying in VR long enough that I kind of think I probably have a fairly good idea of what works and what doesn't. I've tried quite a bit that doesn't work. So, but that's kind of the cool thing here in X-Plane is this. So haptic feedback is so important. So the same way as if I'm over here and if I turn this, I'm not sure if you can hear it in the headset, but in the headset I'm hearing it click, 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 click. I'm hearing actually those detents on this encoder. I'm hearing the detents. So when you're adjusting it, you can kind of tell like how fast you're turning. Or same thing is if you find that this knob is too fast, there's a way where you can go into the VR config file for the aircraft and you can adjust. So if it's a little bit too quick, a little bit too slow, that those parameters are adjustable. So it allows you to tweak, to basically tweak the aircraft to match how you interact with the cockpit. So and same way it's down here. So I basically highlight it, I felt it, pull the trigger, and just pull it up, just like I would for real. Just like I would have put my fingers on it, pulled up on it. That's how it works. So, and I could do two at the same time. If I actually grabbed them. So, but so that's that part, and I'm just slowly trying to go over like all the things I find important in VR, and my goal is I'll take a look at this when I'm all done and make sure that oops, didn't have my mic where it belonged. But I will. I'll take a look at this, and my goal probably is to put this up on YouTube. And I didn't like the fact I had my mic up in the air, but the great thing about VR is you can't see your mic, and about the only way I could see it is if I seen the audio be a little bit lower. But the Big Stream Beyond has a built-in mic that is probably the best mic I've ever heard in VR. so this because the headset I'm using is basically a Vive Pro 2. Yeah, this is one of the worst mics in VR. So I'm running an at-line mod mic, wireless mod mic, and it actually works quite well. I just sometimes have to forget to rotate it down, and so one other thing I wanted to go over is let me get myself positioned. Pretty close enough. I use a program to adjust myself in the seat because this is really important. So, for me to be able to basically, I mean, first of all, I'm in front of my desk, so I have my Fulcrum One bolted to my desk. And the first time I tried this in VR, it kind of like went, oh, that is not going to work because the desk is in the way. Took me a while, but I figured this out. And anybody else that has a need, because what I'm trying to do is be very minimalized. In other words, I don't want to have a big physical cockpit. I want to have a yoke instead of pedals. And when I'm not using them, they're off to the side. My pedals, I get shoved in underneath the desk. My yoke, I have the box that came in. I flip them upside down and I put them on that box. So when I get ready to fly, I basically have to bolt my yoke to the desk. Then I take the pedals, and the pedals are mounted on a wheel stand Pro. And so I pull the wheel stand Pro back to about the right position. I roll my chair in so that one of the legs of my chair touches the wheel stand Pro. So that worked pretty good until I pushed on the pedal and the chair went backwards. I went, oh, that's not going to work. In the middle of a wheel stand Pro, there's a tube that comes up. Used to be where I put my yoke on, but this yoke's too heavy for that. So I looked at it, I looked at the shaft on my chair, and I went, oh, this'll work. So basically I have a bungee cord. I have a bungee cord that's wrapped around the wheel stand Pro tube. So when I get ready, I roll the chair in against it, uncoil about 3 coils of the bungee cord, wrap it around the chair, and connect it together. So, full right pressure. Yes, I can move that chair away, but I've got to put a lot of pressure on it. But as soon as I release it, it's coming back. So when I'm doing full right rudder, I haven't moved the chair yet. If I apply a lot of pressure, I can, but that's not how you fly. So you don't apply that kind of pressure. I mean, you're just basically gonna run the rudder pedals as far as it goes till it stops, and then you're gonna stop putting pressure on because it doesn't make any difference. So that's how I got around the problem of the chair kind of pushing away. Because I remember on one landing, I had to give it quite a bit of right rudder, and all of a sudden I pushed the chair like right away from the pedals, and that was a bad landing. I didn't recover from that one, so we crashed. but that's how I do that. Then the other thing is adjusting the virtual cockpit. So to get everything set correctly, you figure from the desk to my chest, it's about, you figure, it's 8 inches going in, 8 inches coming out. So that's about 16 inches from here to my desk. So I have to get the virtual cockpit basically a little bit in front of that desk. So if I come down across here, I felt something right there. That's the bracket. That's the bracket of the yoke. But this is clear. So I don't hit anything. So everything here is clear. So I can come in here with the intercontroller and it's not. And it's all related to where I've put this virtual cockpit in relationship to my physical desk. My goal is to make the virtual cockpit in front of this. So when I put my controller in, you can see part of the controller is actually behind it. So I'm actually a little bit crooked, not a lot, just a little bit crooked, because this one is not quite all the way. This one's in a little bit deeper. But I have found once I did that, then all of this becomes easily accessible, and I don't have anything getting in my way. You know, like right here, there's going to be my yoke is like right here, the hard part of it. So I'm above it when I'm here, and there's nothing here. It's breakers, but none of them are active, so that doesn't matter. So everything here is up above, and but that's how I found that to make it as usable as possible, and because what I had done before is I had my Wheel Stand Pro off to the side, and I would have to pull my Wheel Stand Pro off. It had the yoke, the pedals on it, had the yoke on it, and it weighed quite a bit. So it was, I can set this up faster than I could with the Wheel Stand Pro the way I had it. So all I need to do is just bolt this guy down, pull the pedals back to where they need to be, and I check on my back wheels. I have a floor mat, and the back wheels are just off the floor mat. So I kind of know pretty quickly that I have it in the right place, so I can go, oh yeah, I've got room. So I can go as far back as I need to go back if I need that much yoke back, if I need that much to land or whatever I need to do. That's all available. There's no limitation. So that's probably it. Yeah, like I said, I didn't really plan on flying. I thought it might turn out to be not too bad, but yeah, everything's looking pretty good. And once again, I'm like flying like I built an i9 13900K with a 4090, and I have been so happy with the performance of this with this computer. I mean, it just rocks. I mean, I've strived to see numbers like this in VR and never succeeded. Especially with bounce back outside. Especially with cloud cover. Cloud cover would just drive for me. It would drive VR. It would impact it a lot. Like if I had like complete cloud cover, if I would fly under a cloud, man, I would watch it drop from say 45 to 30. I don't see an impact. I just in this computer system, I don't see an impact. Not whatsoever. But I'm in X-Wing 12, and I am running. So my resolution. Which audio are you missing? Mine or yours? Are you not hearing me? Really? Let me check. Let me check. One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I'm confused then, because when I'm looking here at my Mod Mike's wireless mic, I am clearly, the mic's clearly on and it's working. So other than you having a muted tab on your Twitch, I would check that for sure. Because It certainly looks to me like I'm streaming. Yeah, I'm definitely streaming audio by the looks of it. And let me check here. And I can see also, I can see the audio when I flip a switch here. I can see that audio. So interesting. Because I basically when what I'm looking at here, I have my tab muted, because if I don't, I'll hear myself, and but I'm at a loss as to why you should not be hearing me. I'm absolutely screaming. I wish I had an answer. One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's absolutely there. Huh. Well, this is terribly disappointing. One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, well. Well, if people can't hear me, that's a bit disappointing, but I'm at a loss as to why that would be true. But unless I listen to the VOD, I won't know that, so. Would you back up out of the way? Alrighty. Oh, okay. All right. Very, very good. I have no idea. But I mean, I just look on OBS. That's why I have it up. Oh, really? Oh, wow. Interesting. Quite interesting. Okay, so back to your questions. The window I have here, it's called Chatty. So basically what I do is I use a program called OVR Toolkit. That's what this is here. So that brings in FPS VR, but it also allows me to bring windows in. So I basically have this Chatty window. I have it in my VR cockpit, and I normally have it up about like that. So I have it set up where if somebody gets a message, I hear a ding. So normally I have it up kind of out of the way so that it's not distracting. And but if I hear a ding, then I can turn and go, oh, okay, then I can read the chat. Works great. Works great. Yeah, it is. Both of them I've used pretty much since I started streaming VR. And that's been, I think, almost 2 years now. I think. I don't think it's 3. I think it's 2. Maybe 3. But when I first started streaming in VR, I was kind of like, there's no way I can stream if I don't have chat and if I don't have some method to interact with chat. That's not me. So I found OVR Toolkit first, and then I found Chatty after that, and it's been great. It's been great. So it works out quite well. So. Yeah, no, it is. I'm not. Basically, I was. The goal of today's stream was not to fly. I basically went over how in a flight sim I interact with the cockpit using a physical yoke and pedals and VR controllers and no mouse. There's a lot of people that fly in VR with physical yoke and pedals and use a mouse for interaction. It doesn't fit my style. would be the right way to put it. 'Cause let me realign some things here. Yeah, so get myself straightened up here. So I'll kind of. So I have a physical yoke and pedals, so you can see. Oh no! Trust me, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. I do have a question for you, since you do have a Beyond. How do you shut down your base stations? Because I'm kind of thinking that I'm going to have to use a Bluetooth dongle to get them. You never do. Okay. Mine, whenever the valve index come out, and I don't know the year right now. I don't have access to that. Whenever the valve index come out, I bought a valve index. It come with 2.0 base stations. In that configuration, I needed a third, and I bought a third about the same time. I am on my original base stations. I have not replaced them. So, and I do quite faithfully turn them off. Let me rephrase that. I don't take the power away. I use, basically with this Vive Pro 2, if I tell SteamVR to shut down, I think, I don't know if it's in the link box or in the headset, but there's a Bluetooth thing that basically talks to the base stations, and it puts them, it's not in sleep mode because not only does it turn the lasers off, but it turns the motors off too. So they're quiet. So I don't hear them spinning. I don't hear them at all when I'm not in VR. And if the Beyond doesn't have that, it's fine. I have a Bluetooth dongle that I can use, and I'll just set up a method where I'll run a file that'll basically say shut down Steam, and it'll basically shut down Steam and the base stations at the same time. I don't have any problem figuring that out. So I kind of had to do that when I was using my Pimax 8KX. So it's not and the same way as I had a HP Reverb G2 that I was using the Valve Index controllers with, and I had to do the same thing. So, wanted to show you. So, yeah, I just didn't want to like turn the power off. I don't know. That's just me. I shut my computers off whenever I'm like when I go to bed. I turn my computers off. So it's probably no different. But I've been doing this with base stations for as long as I've had them. So yeah, it's just something I've gotten a habit of doing. You know. So you remember we were talking about like squeezing on the Valve Index? So this is what happens in X-Plane. So if I squeeze it, you see that? That's a menu system for X-Plane. so that's lit up. So if I move my thumbstick over to there, then it highlights that. If I pull the trigger, then it shows up this menu. And then if I use the thumbstick, that allows me to go down through. If I push it to the right, then it goes down another menu system, which is all the plugins. So that's how. And if I squeeze it again, it goes away. Oh yeah, this is pretty. I mean, I've been happy with this the VR controller implementation. So. Oh yeah. More so on Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's what I've found. Not sure why. I'm just not sure why that is true. Yeah. It is. Or they. No, they use a mouse. But understand, coming from X-Plane, from the very first time I was in VR in X-Plane, I always used VR controllers. So that's been like 5 years ago now. So that's kind of where my comfort zone is. So to use a mouse is pretty foreign to me, and especially these are Valve Index controllers. This isn't like a Vive controller or an HP Reverb G2 controller. They're on my hands. They don't leave. So I don't lose them. If you're using a different controller, maybe that does make a difference. But with a Valve Index controller, they're here. And I can absolutely fly an airplane with them on my hands. No problem at all. So but so this is kind of what I'm seeing in like X-Plane. And so Yeah, yeah, yeah. It'll look better, I'm quite sure. But yeah. It looks quite real. It looks quite real. So, but yeah, this guy over here. This is I created this. This is a Plywood Lewis script that I wrote. So basically, this is my rudder pedals because you can't see them in the camera. So if I shove in on the right rudder pedal, so that bar goes up, this one comes back, just like my pedals are doing. And if I shove in on the left, same way, that's going up. And then in the middle there, if I roll the pedals in, these are the brakes. So if I put them in all the way, I'm gonna hear it click. So I just released the parking brake on it. So, but so I basically wrote that script. It's about a third the size of what it was, and it actually has worked out quite well. I haven't flown with it yet, but oh yeah, yeah, there is. It's a lot of fun though, you know. And the cool thing about VR is everything is like 1-to-1. So let me jump outside. So we're gonna see if I can actually do this. Yeah. So this is just about right. I can't walk. If I tried to walk to the end of the back of the swing, I couldn't. My head would hit. That's real life. So the oh yeah, oh more than that. we can like teleport. So let me go over to the terminal. So I'm pretty proud of this here actually. This is I basically redid this airport. So Explain 12 added a whole bunch of features that allowed you to add to airports. One is these jetways. So the previous version of this airport, these jetways were static. So now they're not. So basically, let me go over here so you can see it. So basically, I told it to put the end of that jetway in that building, make that as a point, make that as a point, and then the cabin on the end of it. So it was like 4 points. So if a plane like a 737 comes up and parks here, and then in X-Plane, there's a menu where you can say, bring the jetway to the plane. The jetway will actually move. And it'll move right over to the plane, and basically, just like a real jetway does, it'll move right into the plane, you know, turn the cabin so that it lines up with the plane, and it'll move right into it. Just so cool. And it took me longer to delete the old static one than it did to create the new one that actually moves. So, the same way as out here in the parking lot. Out here in the parking lot, there was probably 250 static cars. There are none there now. So the same way as you, on this end of it, I basically put a node and went over to the other end. Where'd it go? Yeah, right here. Went over to this end, put a node, and then says, make these parking spots. So when it does that, and it just does this. So, and then it populates, depending on what's going on, it populates the cars. So the funnier part is over here, you see this purpley stuff? Well, that's motor oil. Evidently, the car that was parked there had a leak, and so that's kind of funny. That's kind of funny too. So, one other fun part is these are trees. The trees were static. They didn't move. Now they move. So these are for X-Plane 12 now. So this is a locust tree. Let me get back a little bit. Yeah, so this is a locust, and about 10 meters high, I think. But the cool part is that depending on the way the wind's blowing, that's the way the tree's going to move. So the tree is reflective of the wind. So it's not just moving up and down. It's moving up and down related to which way the wind's blowing, which is also pretty cool. So, and oh yeah, well, let's go over to traffic lights. Traffic lights work too. This is a little weird because there's a traffic light that probably don't belong there. There shouldn't be a red light because there's no cars, no streets. So, oh, absolutely, it absolutely is. So, and but you can actually see the traffic lights actually change. So this one's a little bogus because it isn't. These are all automatic, all put in where the scenery goes in. These are all put in there, and so that's but the whole point is they actually change colors and stuff. So go. Where do I want to go? Oh, yeah. Let me spin around. Yeah. So if you come up to Erie, that terminal building, the tower, yeah, it looks pretty close. And there's actually a beacon on top of it. That is, if it's a day like today, it's probably not spinning. So not sure why that's going on. But if you look at it from here, the front of it's going to look about like that. So you're going to have a whole bunch of windows, a little bit of brick, a couple of entrances, and then so right in there is where you get into the planes. Over there is ticketing, and over here, oh yeah, we actually got a mailbox. And over here, that's where you get into, that's where you pick up your bags at inside here. No, it's live. So basically whatever I see right now outside, or what I see in the sim, that's basically the weather I would see if I went outside. It may be off by an hour or two. You know, it's a little tough for it to be live completely. But within an hour or two, because it's kind of like how should I put that? It's kind of like a running forecast. So it basically recreates it based on the running forecast and the current actual weather. So every hour, unless the weather changes a lot, airports like Erie have a weather report. So basically, they say what is the current conditions. And example, let me.
Erie International Tombridge Field Information Oscar 1615.
Can you hear that?
Wind light and variable. Visibility more than 10 miles. Sky conditions scattered at 2,300. Temperature 4. Dew point -3. Altimeter 3016. Arriving runway 24. Departing runway 24. Advice on initial contact. You have information Oscar.
That's called an ATIS report. So basically it's the weather report for the airport for this particular hour. And at Erie, it rolls on about, we'll say on the 51st minute. And so then it rolls around and updates, unless the weather has changed quite a bit, and then they'll update it in between. But normally it's on the 51st minute. You know, so when I was coming out here to fly, I would listen on. I had like a radio that I could listen to the ATIS on the way in, so I could kind of tell like what was going on. There's a phone number you could call where you could get kind of a similar information, but not the active runway. So that's kind of how that works. So they're using a forecasted weather kind of in the area and further away. And then they're using the local information, and they're kind of marrying those two together to kind of come up with what kind of clouds are we going to put in the sky? So that's kind of how that works. So if I go over here, whoops, wrong place, Bill. So if I go to my weather, I'll click on customize. So this is basically the weather that's being generated. So it says a few cumulus clouds at between 3,000, 3,200, and 9,700 feet. So here it's AGL. So AGL is above ground level. So 2,500 feet from the ground up, you're going to see a few cumulus clouds, and that's kind of what you're seeing. They're not enough to be scattered, but they're few. So you see a lot of blue in there. And and if you look, there's like a little bit of gusting, but not too much. So it's 2.9. So they said they were doing 2.4. So the wind is coming from 2.98. So that makes sense. Anything close to 2.4 is where it's going to be. Any wind close to 2.4. So in other words, close to 240 will be the runway that you're going to use. So and it And every so often, I forgot what the repeat rate is when it downloads new weather, but it does it on a continual basis. So, yes. So even crazy conditions like hurricanes, I was flying. Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. The last time I streamed, the weather was way above the pilot or the plane's ability. So I flew to 2 different airports, and I come back to Erie. On 2 of the other airports, I got it on the runway, but I had a hard time keeping it on the runway. I went off the runway, went into the grass, got it back on the runway, but the winds were way above the rating of this aircraft. So it was gusting. I think it was gusting to at least 30 knots, maybe a little bit more. This thing's demonstrated for a crosswind of about 15, so it was like twice what the plane was rated for. And the pilot wasn't good enough to try to make it happen. So it was a bit hilarious. So, but when I come back to Erie, it wasn't as bad, and the winds were more down the runway, so it was more just keeping enough power to it to keep it onto the runway. But I didn't have to worry too much about it being a crosswind. But it was I enjoy the challenge, because wasn't that long ago where I would have just went, no, I'll change the weather. No, I don't do that anymore. No, it's just a challenge. Can you actually land the airplane? And not only can you land it, but can you keep it on the runway? So, but this is where I learned how to fly. So, you crash. It's that simple. You crash. So, and yeah, something you would never want to do in real life, but you can do it in a sim for sure. Yeah. So, oh yeah, yep. Yeah, I have. There's like artificial intelligence where you can have AI airplanes, and then you can have other people come. But I tend to fly by myself, so I don't see any of the other traffic. But there is there is traffic programs you can add, so that one of them is called live traffic, and what live traffic is it basically simulates real live traffic. So in other words, the planes that come here to Erie, they'll actually show up here, which is pretty cool, but it's not. It costs you some frames to do that, and I've just currently chosen not to do that. So, but that absolutely is possible. So, and the other is like there's actually there's live ATC. So in other words, there's there's Pilot Edge, there's Absent, or I can't think of what the other. Depends where they are. I mean, a lot of times you'll have to wait for your turn, and if you're, I use a program called Pilot to ATC, so I have kind of like a computerized air traffic control, and it kind of keeps track, and so if there's if I did have live traffic on, it would kind of like say, hey, you gotta, you can't land right now, you've gotta, do something, so that you gotta wait for the other traffic, just like you would in real life. So, because actually I've had that happen where I was flying in the pattern here in Erie, and there was a commercial coming in, and basically the air traffic controller told me to extend my downwind, so basically I flew further away from the airport over Erie, and to basically let the commercial land before I turned and I come in and I landed after that plane landed. So so that happens in real life. So but yeah, there's like online ATC also, where and in that case you actually see the other aircraft in the sky and stuff. You actually can see them. Much like Microsoft does it, like really, theirs is probably the lowest entry point of any multiplayer. Is that in Microsoft Flight Simulator, one thing I did really enjoy is that you can do like a group flight. So you see all these other planes, and they're all like right there. So that's kind of cool, and it's something that X-Plane is promising, but it ain't there yet. So where you have to for X-Plane, you have to use a more rigid air traffic control, as opposed to more of a, I wouldn't want to use the term free for all, but it's probably the right term, because with Microsoft Flight Simulator, I mean, I've been on group flights where there was, well, at least 150 planes at this airport getting ready to take off. It was pretty cool. So. No doubt. No doubt. Yeah, I've been on some of them group flights. And I mean, like, I like to fly in VR, but the VR controller support for me is just, I have to make too many compromises, and I'm just not quite ready yet. I think I will. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to. I want to get back, and I want to try to find a way that I can make my method of flying in VR work in Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's something I want to do, and I want to do it before Flight Sim Expo, and that's in the end of June. So I want to make sure I get some flying time in Microsoft Flight Simulator in VR before that, and I want to make sure I do that. So I got a little bit of work to do to try to figure that out, and but that's kind of my goal. So. Well, this has been fun. Whoops. I forgot I left the battery on. But, yeah. So that's kind of what I wanted to go over today. Looks like I'll probably have to do some editing, but maybe not. I'll have to see what it looks like. So. Hey, no problem at all. That's kind of, I certainly enjoy the chat interaction. It is one of the reasons I stream. It's for that. The other reason is trying to pass the the knowledge that I have, not only in flying a real airplane, but how to simulate in VR, how I do that. It's not right or wrong. It's how I do it. So, we'll see you guys later. I think I'll call it a day. Sorry about that. So, if you enjoy this kind of content, please click on the follow button. So when I do go live, you'll get an alert. And thank you for the follow. And for some reason, I hear it, but I didn't see it. But oh yeah, that works pretty good. Normally, I see it in chat, but I didn't see it, and I got to figure out why that's true. And because I really like to say exactly who did it, but every once in a while in chatty here, it doesn't show up, and because it should show up in this chat window. It has in the past, but I've got to figure out what's broke. And like I said, I'm on a new computer, so I haven't got all of this figured out, but I need to. I need to very much. So thanks much. Y'all have a great day. I've had a lot of fun, and we'll be streaming again, no doubt. Oh, there's another one, and that may be a double. I'll have to look. So, thanks much. You have a great day. Bye bye.